right, my favorite people, Sterling White here, back at it again with another topic for you on the 5 things you need to know before you get started in investing. So don't get started investing until you actually know these, and why this is important for those of you who are considering investing in real estate, or maybe you're a newbie and you're just now getting started. You'll want these insights as a way to guide you along your journey, or just be aware of them. So stay tuned. So if you are just now coming across me, yes, I am bald. I actually got more of a buzz cut for today. Name is Sterling White, born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, not so good parts of the city. Right before actually shooting this, someone randomly came over to my door and asked for my phone, but they reached for my doorknob. I know I'm a little bit off topic. I rolled the window down and said, don't do that. You could use my phone, but I guess those types of things happen here in Houston. I wouldn't say that. It is what it is. But just going back on topic, single mother, fraternal twin brother, and almost lost my life at 5 years old because we grew up in not the so good parts of the city, where in Section 8 housing, welfare, food stamps, and ended up. That's where I got my entrepreneurship bug, because I had to figure out a way to earn money in a legal sense, because there was tons of illegal activity that was going on around, and then got into construction in real estate 2009. Shortly after that, bought my very first single family house, 23 years old, scaled to 150 single families, and then started buying multifamily, where the first deal was a 46 unit. So that's just a compact version of myself. But that rolls into my first point, is that you have to have belief in yourself and overcome any limiting beliefs that you may have. Because I know when I had first started, is I thought that investing in real estate was only for the wealthy. You have to have a large amount of cash, that you had to have 100% of the knowledge, all these different things, and that I actually couldn't do it myself because I didn't have the knowledge. But or even the credit was another limiting belief that I had. When you would pull my credit, you guys, is it wouldn't even register. But what I learned is, and this is just through self improvement and really rewiring a lot of my mindset, is that people have been worse off than I have, and still have been able to make something of themselves. So that very first deal is, I didn't have a credit score. It wouldn't even come up when you would pull it. I didn't have any cash, but one thing is, I had the hustle, and I found someone who had the cash and the knowledge. I brought them the deal, and that's how I was able to get my foot in the door. But it all started with belief and me rewiring my mindset, and having more of a success mindset versus a victim and limiting one. And my second point is just knowing that it takes time and having patience. I know we're in the social media age where you see highlights, there's instant gratification, but just know that that highlight that you may see on Instagram of that person getting that first deal, or let's say it's a 100-unit complex, for instance, is that just know that there were sacrifices, blood, sweat, and tears. They may have not have been able to see their kids or their family that led up to that point, but no, you just see the highlight. So knowing that, and this is what I've personally learned and want to do an experience share, is that real estate is not a get rich quick. If you have that thought process, you will not want to listen to me, because I'm not on that line. It's more of a get wealthy or get rich slowly. And just by having more of a long-term view, is you won't take shortcuts that could end up costing you in the long run, and then you can plant the seeds now. That way you'll be able to reap those benefits in the future. Because I see many that do get into the industry, they take shortcuts, and they don't end up working out, because they think that it's only a month, it's been 2 months, I haven't got my first deal. It takes time. That's all it comes down to. And then patience, and then just consistency day in, day out. Oh boy, this is a big one. Know your why. And I know this gets thrown around so much about, you got to know your why. I actually have in my notes over here the letter Y. I didn't even take the time to spell out why entirely. is this will allow you to, one, get through the patience side and the sacrifice, because if you know your North Star and what you're pushing towards, that is the fuel that you can tap into when things may not be going so well, or you're planting the seeds and you're just not seeing things start to come to fruition or sprout. And one of my whys, you guys, is that I remember going to the grocery store, and this was in my late teens. I remember I was in college still, that I went to one of my relatives, because I didn't have the money to pay for groceries, and I asked them that, hey, could I use your food stamp card? And they said, yeah, go here you go ahead and pay for your groceries. And I actually did that a couple times, but I remember this very vivid moment. I went to Kroger. This was on West Washington in Indianapolis, and I went to go pay for my groceries, and I felt like all eyes were on me, that because it was a blue card, and it had like yellow and like the what is it, one of the logos for Indianapolis or Indiana, whatever the case is. But I felt as soon as I pulled out that card that all eyes were on me paying for this, and everyone's like or thinking to themselves that this guy is on government assistance, he's using food stamps. And I just, for some reason, I'm sure it wasn't even the case, but I felt so damn ashamed. And not a knock against people who are on government assistance, but I knew at that point I never want to be in that position. So when I'm down, or when things aren't going well, I think of that moment, and then also all the times that people said I wouldn't amount to anything. So there's different types of fuel and whys and what you can pull from, because I remember listening to a documentary by Kobe Bryant, for instance, and he says when he digs into his motivation, he looks at, he digs into the more negative things of people saying that he can't do this or he can't do that, and then he leverages that as fuel. So you got to know your why. Point number 4, have a team. I know this is very, very common that you hear, but having a team, if you can find a mentor to be on that team, that is even more beneficial. But having the awareness, you may have to get perspective from others to let you know about areas that you are weak in, and the areas that you have strengths in, because if you're trying to do everything when you're getting into investing yourself, whether it is buying that first single family house, or you're doing self-storage, or you're doing smaller multifamily, just know that it takes a team. Yes, you can do it all on your own, but if you want to go faster and further, that's where the team starts to get involved. And first starting out myself, is just going back to the example, is that I didn't have the cash. I really didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have a entire team as well, as far as contractors, someone in accounting to help with a property management team to collect the rents, and then also sign the leases. So I didn't have that knowledge and I didn't have that team, but I partnered with my mentor who already had the infrastructure, and as well as had the cash to be able to cut the check for the deal. So that's a prime example, is that I could have figured out a way to try and do it all on my own, maybe just work at a job, or I wouldn't even say work at a job, but do some type of hustle or some type of business to get the income. Then I could have on my own started buying deals, but I knew that, hey, I'd rather get started now and just partner with people, and then that'll allow me to be able to scale and get my foot in the door that much easier. And the last but not least is know thy numbers. Think of it as a 10 commandment, or a amendment to abide by, is that this is a business, and to be treated as such is what I've personally learned. And the properties that I have bought from owners, is they didn't treat it as a business. They treat it as a side hobby, and then they realized that they were actually losing money because they were not properly managing it, and then understanding that, okay, this is the income coming in, this is the the expenses that are going out, and they took a look at, oh man, I'm actually losing money on these property. And then at times they would be doing the renovations too. I remember walking up to a property, and many of you know this story, who are already familiar with me, that the owner was actually cutting his own grass. This goes back to having people on your team that's not the highest value activity. And this, I know I'm going back to the fourth point that I mentioned, is that having the right people on your team allows you to focus on the highest value activities as you're building your business versus the lower value activities. And then also areas that you're weak in that you know that you need, such as underwriting, operations, analyzing deals, finding deals, raising money, that you may be weak in those areas. You bring someone onto your team, and then there you go. That's something that now you don't have to, it's good for you to still learn it, but you have someone there who that's their strength. And then now you can play to your strengths in that case. But just knowing thy numbers. So Bigger Pockets has a calculator. It's free, because this is a common mistake I see people make. And I actually first made starting out, was I was just simply using rules of thumb. Rules of thumb are good to use as rules of thumb, but you actually want to understand, what is your return? Do you have an allocation for your repairs and maintenance? Do you have an allocation for your vacancy? Because your property is not always going to be 100% occupied. Yes, that sounds good theoretically, but in the real world is you still want to protect your downside and have an allocation for vacancy and your repairs and maintenance, and other expenses that also may come up, such as property management. So knowing your numbers, that way you understand, okay, I invest this is my actual return on my money. Okay, now is this actually a good deal? So that's all I have for you all today. In summary, that you want to go through back through that, because these are the 5 things that you will need to know. If not, don't invest in real estate just yet. So I appreciate you all so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. Those of you on the YouTube, those who are listening while you're in the shower, washing your butt, then facing that order on iTunes, you're on SoundCloud, listening on the podcast, leave that rating. It would truly mean the world for me, to me. And also there's a link below to schedule a strategy session with myself or someone on the team. We're on that call, would see where you're currently at, where you're looking to go, and how to bridge the gap and provide a action plan. The call's about 30 to 45 minutes. So appreciate you. Keep being awesome. Thank you.